Okay, so let's connect everything up in the order we want to sort of render it. Yes, we want to render the terrain. We want to render pyro, so let's just merge it in. We want to render our smoke puff. We want to render our shockwave. And where are our embers? I had a crash in the meantime, so I think I might have accidentally lost my settings for my embers. So let me just make one again. So be right back. Oh, one more thing, by the way, that we almost forgot, which is quite important, which I was thinking of when we sort of connected these up. We still need the environment fog. So the going to be this one. That one is going to be quite important for the look. So let's do that one first. Let's just copy and paste one of our things. I guess we can copy and paste the terrain. And let's just copy and paste pyro, because that one should be already set up pretty okay. So let's call this volume fog. Volume fog. Okay. So we want to turn on the volumetric scattering that we already set up previously. I think our settings should be good for that. We can check that later. So we have our matte objects, which is okay. We don't want to render any objects themselves. We only want to do matte objects. Let's go into the render view and let's just check volume fog, see what it looks like. So we don't really want all these lights. We only want the beam lights, and I think we should probably name the other light more. And for some reason, suddenly my Houdini starts moving to the objects that I selected, which I never had before. So that's a little bit weird. But yeah, let's call this one, I guess, the orb light or something. Oh, we have the bug again. Side effects, please fix this bug. Okay, orb light. So we only want orb light and beam light. So orb light is probably a little bit too intense. Let's turn off the bucket rendering. So let's see why it's so extremely bright. Let's turn off both these lights. Okay, let's reload because for some reason it's also taking into account some other lights which it shouldn't. So I think probably just need to reload. Okay, let's turn them back on. So it's already looking a lot better. Rock explode, debris. Let's see. I think we need. Do we have anything else? Terrain, rock explode. Okay, we probably want to change this fog. You see, it sort of jumps back, which is annoying. I'm going to hotkey this. Okay, we want to probably change these volumetric scattering settings a little bit because we don't want it to be. I mean, the beams kind of look nice, but we don't really want that. And I feel like it's not doing the matte properly. Maybe we need to turn that, move the orb light down a little bit. No, I want one. We're gonna turn down the volumetric scattering a little. Going to try another frame. See what that looks like. I kind of feel like it's not using the terrain properly as a mat. You see, we can sort of still see into it, which is a little bit weird. Oh, yeah. Okay, we need to probably say, oh, we have that turned on. Okay. See what happens if we... Okay, oh, so it is working. It's just weird that how we can look into the... It's like it's weird how we can sort of see into the thing, but it's because I guess we have... It's different than because in my original there was sort of this this gap wasn't visible, so I guess it's just light that's being cast. Okay, let's go to the pyro. Copy and paste again all these things. Okay, something like that. I'm gonna tweak the frame scattering again a little bit. And I'm going to turn down the intensity for the orb light. I'm going to move it up a little bit more. All right, so let's just try this. All right, so let's render a small sequence. In your case, you can, well, you can start doing the entire thing, but I'm only going to render a couple frames. So in order to render a sequence, let's also put this one in the bottom. Something you need to enable on your Redshift. By the way, if you're using Deadline Manager, so for rendering with that, and again, I have a video about that, but then you would just, then you wouldn't do this. Then you would just plug your ROPs into your Deadline Manager, and then you would submit this to Deadline. If you're rendering this in Houdini itself, what you need to do is you need to select your ROPs, go to Main, and you need to disable non-blocking current frame rendering. Else you cannot put them like this, then it will just only do one. All right, so let's select some, and let's say frame by frame. That's fine for rendering. Okay, let's set the render region So I'm just going to say that I want, for this case, I want to start at frame 14 and I'm going to render until frame 32. So I'm going to, for these, main take and terrain environment, because I'm not going to render the entire sequence because I mean, I already have renders for all of this for my main thing. So I'm just going to render this part to just, to show that this sort of works in compositing, and then I'm going to switch it out with my original renders because those are, of course, more highly polished. Oh, one more thing, almost forgot, is which I'm not going to render here, but you also need to render your Steam. So I guess you could put Steam in there as well. That one doesn't really need a lot of other stuff. So that would be, can copy the smoke puff, I guess. So it's very similar to the smoke puff. And your Steam. That should all be fine. So this will be Steam, and Steam won't start until later. So that one would be frame 80 to 175 or something. But again, we're not gonna render that. That's not gonna be in this part that we're not gonna render for now. I mean, if you're gonna render your entire sequence, but for me, I'm not gonna render this one for now because I mean it's not gonna be in that sequence. Okay, so now I think we have everything. Now select these. Let's go in here. I mean, let's just override the frame range, just so we're sure. Frame by frame is fine. Okay, and then I'm gonna press render, and then it should render this sequence, and then we're gonna, well, then we're done inside of Houdini actually, and then we're gonna composite it. Maybe we might jump back later to maybe tweak some stuff if it ends up that we forgot something, but in general, this rounds up the Houdini and Redshift part, and then all that's left to do is the compositing inside of Fusion. So I'm going to press render. Okay, so one more thing I want to point out before you start doing any renders. So generally, if you're just doing renders for compositing, generally what you first do is you'll just render a couple of still frames to just try your composite on. And also, if you're going to render a sequence, you can just render at a lower resolution. So on your camera, you can set your resolution. So generally it would be 1920 by 1080. But on your RAW, you could say that I want to go to main and override camera resolution and say, for example, I want to render at half resolution. So then it would render at 960 by 540. You could do that on all your RAWs. So that's generally what you would do if you're just doing preview renders. But what I like to do generally is when I'm working on a shot, I just try to crank out as many renders as I can. You don't render when it's finished. You just, when you have something, just render it, try it in compositing, because that's the only way you're gonna run into issues. Like I render all the time. I have a dozen renders from this project, which that go, well, like in the beginning were very ugly. I just render everything all the time. So generally, this is what you do. And another thing I want to point out before you do any renders, I ended up rendering a lot of these shots with overscan, because we're going to do some camera shake inside of compositing as well later. So what you can do is on your RAW, you can either increase your resolution yourself doing overscan, or you can enable overscan mode. I'm not sure if that's in Redshift 2.6 as well, but it's in here. So you could say, percentage, for example, 10% overscan, and then it would add 10% to the 1920 by 1080, and then we're left with a little bit more resolution. So then we have 10% on each side, for example, if we want to add some additional camera shake. So that's something you want to, you could probably, you should probably do. That's also what I did. So yeah, all right. So let's crank out some renders.